All is not fair in love and war. There once lived a noble man on planet Earth between a time when the world almost fell to darkness and when humanity started to embrace the light of intellect. He was a simple man. He prayed to his God. He helped fellow brothers and sisters to evolve by just being in the right place at the right time. He died across the table from his wife in a nice restaurant, choking on a half-chewed piece of venison. In one moment, his lungs had the pressure of a submarine. The next, it was so incredibly bright that he had to wait several minutes for his eyes to slowly adjust. He is in a room where the walls look to be of glowing marble. Looking around the room, he is flanked by 12 people behind glowing desks. He is in the center. They are the most ancient and strange-looking people he had ever seen. They look like they are from a different time. The ancients silently regard him for some time. He waits for them to speak first. The one facing him directly, an old Greek-looking man of short dark hair dressed in robes of white and gold inlay, spoke first, enunciating his words carefully. "Hello once again, old friend. You have done well in this lifetime, and you are at the end of your cycle. 99.8% of your existence you have maintained chaotic good at the very least, and for this you shall be rewarded one gift. Would you like to review your life?" He remained silent for an epoch. "I want all to be fair in love and war." Some eyebrows raised. A woman in a large hoodie spoke up. "You realize the implications of the effect this will engender onto your reality? Do you realize what you risk losing?" Before he could even open his mouth to say yes, a woman to his right spoke up. "Perhaps we should show him what his life would be like if all was fair in love and war. Then he could make a truly informed decision." "What say you, lover?" the Greek man said, clasping his hands together in front of his mouth. The man nodded. Everyone facing him smiled at that. "So it is, old boy," a British fellow with a long beard said before snapping his fingers. Soon as that happened, a ringing started to grow in his ears, and the room began to grow too bright to see even if his eyes could adjust. The ringing and brightness grew until his entire consciousness was white space, accompanied by a high-pitched tone. He was back at dinner with his wife in their favorite restaurant, except this time she didn't look happy. "John, we need to talk." She didn't even touch her pasta. John, on the other hand, was starving, and he was cutting a steak into tiny bits and chewing until it's absolute meat liquid in his mouth before swallowing. "What's wrong, honey?" She took out a slip of paper from her purse. "Oh God, no," he thought. His stomach practically hit the fucking floor, and his meaty hands began to sweat. She handed a slip of paper to him over the dinner table, careful as to not brazenly display the contract. He grabbed the slip and took out his reading glasses to read, "Termination of Life Partnership Contract," the title of the form said, and this confused John. He had been through 2 divorces already, so he knows exactly what a divorce form says. He kept reading. "I, Patricia Stonewall, formally revoke my willingness to be in lifelong partnership with John Stonewall for the reasons of interest to be pursued outside of this relationship. No assets obtained by John Stonewall shall be disputed at this time or any time in the future. This is not a contract, but a termination of contract effective immediately upon signature. John was still confused. You're filing for divorce? No, honey. I'm filing for a termination of our life partnership contract. Technically, you don't even have to sign it since I'm not trying to take anything from you. I just want you to know that she broke off, become interested in other romantic pursuits. She didn't touch her food, but she almost finished her glass of wine. Other pursuits? John faltered. He almost failed to grasp what was happening. This was the love of his life. Not his everything, his soulmate, he thought. Panic began to take hold in his mind like a sentient knotted ball of yarn constricting itself. That panic moved throughout his body and settled in his chest, hot and burning like acid. Suddenly he felt as if the room had gone down 7 degrees, and he couldn't breathe. He was having a heart attack. The corner of his vision began to grow dark, and pretty soon it was all black. He heard the wet smack along with a plate breaking. But that was distant to him. He heard his name being called over and over again, very distantly outside of the darkness, and then it was black. No, black is a shade. There was no shade here. There was nothing here. It was just him, floating in black warmth. He opened his eyes to find he was once again in front of the strange council in the impossibly bright but beautiful room. His face wet with so many tears that it went down to his white-collared button-up shirt. They all sat silently staring at him, as if he had anything to say. He stared back, blinking tears away to clear his vision. "What the hell was that?" John asked in a choke whisper. "That was," the man in the center said. "Fairness and love," a woman with spiral tattoos all over her face and body said cynically. "How in the blue fuck is that fair?" he croaked, fair being said loud enough to echo once. They all shrugged in their own way. "It's what you asked for," they said in unison. "I don't want it. I don't want no part in that bullshit." "And what do you want, John?" the Greek man asked softly. "I don't want to hurt anymore. That's it. That's all I want." He regained his composure, but silent tears once more began to swell in his eyes and spill onto his plump cheeks. "Then you'll have to go back. For only you can solve that hurt. You have a lot of it, as most earthlings do. But you have the energy within you to absolve your suffering. Your mind won't remember this, but the soul never forgets. And you have a good soul, John." Silence. "Will you go back?" "Not if it's going to be as shitty as the last time around." He needed to wipe his eyes, but there was nothing on the table in front of him. "Don't worry, your next incarnation will be easier on you. You'll have a relatively easy life after the age of 22. You will absolve much of your pain and even help others with theirs. We grant you our blessings and protections as long as you are on your path. Just go through that door directly behind you and this will all be over." John still didn't understand, but at the same time, part of him did. Part of him loved them for it too, for everything. He scooted his chair back. It looked to be made of marble, but was as light as wood and as warm to the touch. He looked at all the faces facing him. "Thank you." He turned around to face the door, as white as the walls, with a gold doorknob. "Salvation" was written on it in Old English font, and the letters themselves seemed to be of gold or gold leaf. As he got closer, the door got brighter, and with a flash of light, The soul that was once named John was opening his eyes for the first time all over again, losing most of his, anyway, memory. Silence once more fell on the room. "That's a wild one, for sure," the Greek man said, moving a piece of paper from one stack to the other. "He always is," the tattooed woman said, and they all laughed at that. "I need a smoke after that one. Anyone care to join me?" the Greek man asked his comrades. And they all shuffled out onto what looked like a normal plane. The end.